hyped every time I walk in this building,
That's
man.
right, bro.
I saw you tapping your hands.
Yo, man.
Different time period, bro.
Yo, I'm telling you, Chuck D, man. Yo, wherever you are, my brother, we got to get you back on the show. By the way, yo, man. Shout out to you, man.
The great Chuck D.
Yo, that's our brother, man. Yo, man. Let me tell you something. I know. Let me just say, this is all politics and local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. But listen.
Well, before we do that, we have a pure disclaimer.
Oh, go ahead, man.
The All Politics Are Local is purely a community radio production, and the ideas and programming do not in any manner reflect the views or positions of Rutgers University Newark. Any view you hear on this show only reflects the opinion of the people who spoke them.
But so I wanted to add, wherever there's something going on where we've got to stand up and defend the democracy as it relates to real people and particularly to black people. Let me tell you something. Back in the day, man, they used to have these boom boxes. I would walk in there with that song, brother. Fight the power.
You will walk in with a boombox playing that. Come on, man.
Hey, brother, let me tell you something, man. I'm walking to the Supreme Court playing Chuck D, bro.
You
know what I mean? No, I'm not saying I have. Okay. But I'm saying I would. Right? I would walk in there because that's how I feel, right?
I had it on my Walkman.
Hey, you know what I mean, man? And listen, man, remember back in the day?
Was a hero to know.
Yes.
But he never met
the straight out racist. The sucker was sitting
mother and John Wayne.
Yeah. Every superhero needs their theme song. And Chuck would do the theme song. You know. So listen, man, y'all know that if it is the third Friday, y'all know that it is the mayor's forum. And yo, I want to shout at everybody on the yard right now. By the way, man, everybody downstairs on the yard can hear you now. Speakers all over down.
Oh, that's all right, brother.
I thought you were going to be talking about Kai's new restaurant.
You know,
no, is that new restaurant called the Yard?
No. But downstairs they got all these speakers.
Oh, you got another Kai doing his thing, man.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I was getting all happy. I was like, "Whoa, it's open already."
That's what we have to. That's right.
But the mayor was talking about that last time. Well, by the way, the voice y'all hear, of course, is our beloved brother, Mayor Ras J Baraka. Of course, you know.
If it's the third Friday, it is the mayor's forum.
It's his show. So let me just pass it off to the mayor, and then I'll jump back in.
That's Rakim now on that.
Yo, this is you know, we're gonna have a great show, by the way. But one of the things I was thinking about, man, like where we're headed. And no disrespect to Senator Rice, but you know that this week the New Jersey Black Caucus put together a committee to study slavery, right?
Yes, sir.
No disrespect to our brother, but he said that white people don't know when they're being racist. I don't know if I believe that.
That might be true. Like they don't really care or think about it.
I don't know.
Don't mean they're not, but it's like they just think it's normal. They just think it's just Tuesday.
That the normalcy of it. I mean, it's like when people say I don't see color.
Right.
You see the red light though, don't you?
Right.
All the time.
Yeah, I don't see color. But that's the problem. You should see it.
Right.
The fact that you don't see it is a problem, right? And they don't see that by itself is a problem, right? So they think that because they say they're not racist, it actually means that they're not, right? Because I can say, well, I'm not racist, so that means I'm not because I said it. But all of the things that I've been institutionalized under, what I believe, my behavior, it could be bias, it could be racist, it could be, outright disrespectful, and they just behave in this way in a normal kind of fashion, and we have not attacked the institutions of racism.
That's right. That's right.
We just angry at people who say the racist words or who behave. We think that Trump, the most vile, the most outward, the ugliest form of racism, but not the subtle and the institutional pieces that keep us in the condition that we're in. We don't question that part of it. That's really what we should be doing.
Like we look at mass incarceration and how many people that we imprison and jail. We look at the low voting numbers, and like we just think that's normal, as opposed to questioning the actual system that makes it so.
Yeah, the everything that created the actual problem itself, we don't look at those things, right? The idea that all this stuff happens almost genetically, like you just born this specific way, inferior, or with these things going on in your life, that in and of itself is like is racist, right? To believe that. To believe that we was born faster, right? You know, that you know, we play basketball better than you because we just inherently, you know, we have more physical prowess and not enough mental prowess.
We just jump
and that's actually been stated. Remember the guy who used to be on CBS? I forget his name. He's dead now, but remember, you know, he said that, you know, the way we were bred, we have bigger legs, and you know,
well, people they did breed us at one
point. Oh,
they
did. But we didn't come out, you know, of our mother's womb.
That's
just all of a sudden we had stronger legs and bigger chests and all of that. And so therefore we were born to be athletes and they weren't. Come on, man. But they were born to be the scientists. They were born to be the theologians and
born to be in charge.
I mean, you know, and so but see, here's the problem I got though, man. 400 years in this country. Why do we need to keep doing studies though, man?
We love studies, man. We love data. I just went to a thing. We went through this data thing. And then they use the data against us. Right. So people will say, oh, you know, black people in Newark are affected disproportionately by all of this. But so we knew this for 50, 60 years. And it's like that in every city in America where we are the predominance, right? So what does that mean? That you're repeating this data, like that, you know, the kids count come out with their data, the health institutions come out with their data, crime numbers come out, everybody come out with their data, and it usually paints us all the way at the bottom. And all it really does, you know, is tell us that we're not doing well. Like they're not like using that data to then, so it's not formative data. It's like cumulative data to say, look at these guys, they horrible. Not formative in a sense like, you know, in school, we do formative assessments. You test people based on what you taught them specifically, and you use those tests to kind of be a scalpel to figure out how to get people from one point to the next point based on a formative assessment, right? The assessments, they usually give us are cumulative assessments, things that they expect you to know over a period of time. The problem is you have never sat down and done the things that they would expect you to do over that period of time, so you wind up failing that cumulative assessment, but they know that. For example, if you take
that was a real educator's answer, right? Like, that's the whole thing about pedagogy, because, you know, we always talk about formative as in like practice, and it's like practice and you master it. So you go practice, then you master.
That's right.
And you're like, with a lot of these like assessments that they actually hold us accountable for, it's, well, you didn't master it, so your school's failing.
Right.
You're failing.
And it doesn't even matter if you've even been taught it.
Right.
If it was in front of you, so because it's not connected to anything. So it's the same with the data. The Star Ledger, all these people come out with this data, but it's not connected to anything. It's not connected to any progress, any movement, any idea of how to make things better, no legislation, nothing. It's just a statement, and then people get to make opinions and comments about just kind of stale data that they get from somewhere. They put it in the Star Ledger, and so people come up with all these opinions about the data. Not even how the data was arrived at, why it's like that, you know, who they study, where it came about, and is there any comparative data, right? Who, like, and to what? So that stuff they don't do that.
But see, but then that poses a problem then. So if all of a sudden now we got to, because remember, the Congress is doing a study. Now New Jersey is talking about doing a study. So if all we're going to do is a bunch of studies after 400 years, right? We know
to realize that, wow, you know, y'all Negroes are really messed up right now.
Yeah,
terrible people, man.
So man, you and
it's a different time, man.
You know what the job issues are in the city of Newark. You don't need no data to tell you. I can come and tell you that, man.
You know what makes it worse? We have no voice, right? So even the activists take their lead from mainstream media. And we believe that this media is objective. We're defending the media because Donald Trump is attacking them like the media is for us. They've never been.
That's right.
Whether you're talking about the Times or Seven, the liberal or the conservative media, right? There's no Freedom's Journal. We only got the Amsterdam News left. We used to have a whole bunch of progressive black, you know, magazines, papers that kind of analyze and critique even the stuff that's coming out of mainstream media. Mainstream media puts something out, everybody responds to what they're saying, right? And not understanding that There's just 5 media companies that control all the information that the whole world is getting,
Right.
right? That are owned by people. So if the guy who owned Facebook also owned the Washington Post, like, come on, y'all.
That's right.
Like and somebody will debate with you, like they put it in the Washington Post, but what does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean? And so we have not even we have gone away from our ability to analyze information and to hear like a full story and begin to on our own to figure out what's going on with us and how to get out of our situation. They put something out, we bite it.
Yeah.
Because numbers are used as it's used almost like in a spooky way. It's kind of like saying, hey, here are these numbers, but they don't give you the context. And we don't really, in our community, we really don't have a lot of discussions about what data means, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean, this comes, when we're talking about schools, we're talking about, this is where I've seen it spin so much. And because the facts are facts, but what you say about them, what they mean,
that's right.
Like how you interpret them, that's everything.
That's right.
Right? Like in a lot of the educational data that we get, it really tests class, it tests active parent. It doesn't test like what the methodology is in those schools.
Right.
Right? Like I have some friends who are lawyers, doctors. They send their kids to a particular school thinking that is a better school. And I'm like, no, they need you. You don't need them.
Right. You make the school better.
Right.
That's what I tell when I speak to kids. There's no such thing as a smart school, right?
Right.
Smart kids go to is in these buildings, right?
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really like we have to get back to the idea of self-determination, right? And we've lost that. We've been focused on this fight for democracy for a long time. Now understand that, like we want the same thing that everybody else has, and we deserve the right by virtue of the fact that we here, that we pay taxes, that if we do a crime, we're going to be arrested. That the people who are elected, myself included, we are victims of whatever their policies are, right? So at the end of the day, by virtue of that fact, we have the democratic right to be treated like everybody else. So we're struggling democratically, right? And we align ourselves with people who are fighting for democratic rights too. So we get these kind of alliances with people who are fighting for democracy. They're fighting for an overall democracy, but not for you.
Right.
Because your situation is a little different than theirs, right? And so the right to self-determination for you is not present. So they make these arguments, if we just fix economically what's going on, then it'll take care of you. That's not true.
Right.
Because at one point we were the economics, right? So and so at some point there has to be something that addresses me. Right. You have to address me, right? Wow, and so I can unite with you, but you got to address me. You can't not see me.
So I'm not trying to get the mayor in trouble or anything, but I mean, that seems like you might be talking about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and many people who talk about class and not necessarily race.
I'm saying, all of these people. I mean, all of them. And we have a right to critique these folks. We critique ourselves like crazy, and we go worse than critique. We beat the heck out of each other.
Yep.
But at the end of the day,
MMA.
That's right. At the end of the day, we have to have real information, and we don't have that information to compare what we're getting from somebody else. Compare that information and begin to study it based on something. Somebody come to you and tell you to be against him, be against her, be against him because they're not for you. That's not necessarily the facts, right? You got to understand what is your position in this. Right. You have to align with people based on strength, not weakness. We're coming together based on strength. Right. I don't want to come with you so you can lead me, right? I come with you because we agree, but there's some specific things that I need when we're struggling together, when we fight. So we fight for everybody to get everything, but I don't have the right to get the things that everybody got because I'm still not included, right? I'm still not included. Like we can fight to increase the minimum wage, but if they ain't hiring you, you don't get it.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We can fight.
It's $15 an hour, but all of a sudden those jobs only go to other people.
Right. If you don't get the jobs, it don't mean anything. And so those things, that struggle is important, right? We have to make sure that's inserted in there. Right. And all of these people who say, they don't know what reparations means, and we allow them to say that. I'll be on this every time I come in. We allow them to say that. It's wrong. Right. It's wrong. How can there's so many people that got reparations from this country, period. Right. So many people that got reparations for things that were horrible and tragic. But we have a horrible and tragic and long story. That's right. That is connected to this country, right? And we are owed reparations for that. And we should be apologetic about it, right? People can't bring themselves to say that, and you should have a problem with it. Right. Yeah, you should have a problem with it. And to I can't just bring myself to defend one of these dudes over another. Right. And that's really what dichotomy is, my dilemma in this thing is, right? I can't bring myself to say this person is better than this person, right? My allegiance is maybe based on something smaller or different, you know. I might support Booker Cuffrey because he's from here, not because I think that his policies are going to help us even better than Bernie Sanders is. Because
more things might come to Newark based on those relationships.
But at the end of the day, these guys, they have to recognize me, and that's my point. They got to recognize me.
But do you get the opportunity, man? Well, let me say it this way. Let me rephrase that. Do you really get the chance to speak from a self-determination perspective in groups of Saba? Because remember, that's because when you're doing that, I know what you're doing. Right.
I say what I want to
say. but you know the circles you're running in. And I
say what I want to say.
And sometimes I'm out there covering you, and I'm saying, he didn't just say that, did he? You know what I mean? And I'm like, do them dudes, because I gotta wonder. I'm saying, yo, do they understand what you just said? Because
sometimes
you saying it now.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, self-determination means you have the right. So democracy meaning I should get what everybody else get, right? Like I should have I need to go to public. I have the right to go to public school,
right?
Because we pay taxes. I want to send my kid there. But self-determination means I can build my own school.
That's right.
I don't need to go there. If I don't want to, you can't force me to have my own school. And I should be able to learn what I want to learn.
And I got the right to teach them Black history.
And I got a right to do that, right? I got a right to pray who I want to pray to.
Right.
Speak in the language I want to speak at, right? I want a Black Santa Claus. I deserve the right to have a Black Santa Claus. If I want to own stores in my neighborhood, I should own stores in my neighborhood, right? That's self-determination. Like I got a right to do these things as a human being. The Constitution didn't give me the right to be a human being. I'm a human being, right? That's what Malcolm X was saying. I'm a human being, and I have a right to exert myself as a human being, and you should respect that. My humanity, no matter how it presents itself, right? Now, I agreed to be in this space with you, so that's why democracy is important. So if I'm going to be in this space with you, we got to be fair, right?
And
we got to be fair.
And isn't what you're talking about like the difference between local democracy and then the things we have to negotiate on a statewide and a national level? Because when you're talking about self-determination, I always think that Newark, right? Like once writer and Ngugi wa Thiong'o saw him in East Orange, right? He mentioned your dad,
serious brother,
right? Like because he was part of the reason why he was around here was because of Uninsured Baraka. And Ngugi wa Thiong'o is a famous Kenyan writer,
right?
And he was like, I love Newark. It's like a small African country, right?
That's
true. And what I always thought about in terms of self-determination on a local level, that is what self-determination is, right? Like we control school systems, we control our economy, we control these things. And I think that that is often lost on us because we want to go out different places, we want to live different places. But if we live together within our communities, then that is we have more self-determination in Newark than in South Orange, than in Maplewood or Ridge, or in a lot of the different places that we move to away from each other.
However, but let's be honest.
Yeah,
that is really because of Mayor Baraka being in the seat that he's in. If he was not the mayor, I can tell you that I never felt that before. I never felt like we were self-determining ourselves in the city of Newark.
Let me speak to
that,
because it's really deeper than that. Like it's the whole fight between whether we should control our own school board or have the state control our school board. Like so. Even when we make a decision to run our own things, right? And we might not agree with each other,
right?
And we might make mistakes, right? But the reality is we have the right to do that like everybody else, right? So as other school districts and other places, they go through things in their cities and they go through things in the schools and they go through things. Nobody comes and takes their stuff,
right?
You understand? Because they have the
no
right.
such thing as, oh, you messed up. So therefore, like in Michigan and all over the country, where in Black communities, they're like, you can no longer control your city government.
Yeah, it's Atlantic City. Like the corporations come in Atlantic City, rape the place. Y'all can't get it right, or we're gonna come over and we're gonna come take it from you.
That's right.
No, you can't. That's taking my self-determination away, right? I have the right to elect who I want to represent me, whether you like them or not. Even if I disagree with him, I can call him an MF every day and still got a right to vote for him every time it's time to vote. That's my That's my right. That's my self-determination, right? At the end of the day, and these people don't have the right to say, oh, these guys are making errors. We're gonna come take it from you because we believe, which is more paternalism, right?
Right.
We believe you can't do it, so we're gonna step in and take over. So, and you look at all of the school districts that have been taken over in the state of New Jersey,
Right.
They're us, Black and brown, majority school districts, right?
Meanwhile, they can elect Trump.
Yeah. Right. Now, what if we say, we don't want Trump?
Right.
Wait, we should take the right for you to vote. All of you who voted for Donald Trump, we take your right to vote away. Right.
That might be a good idea, but I mean, it would never happen, right? The point is, it would just never happen.
Yeah, but that's the difference in self-determination and democracy. And people not, we're just not clear on that, right? We think that if we exert ourselves, that we're doing something wrong.
When locally, when we exert ourselves, that is self-determination.
That's exactly
like we've got to work with the larger democracy, but if we don't work with ourselves first, we don't even know what we're negotiating for.
At all. We give up on each other very quickly, and that is a result of a deeply embedded self-hatred that has been taught to us over decades and centuries, right? Where we believe we're supposed to fail, that we are so comfortable wallowing in negativity and talking about the negativity and not the solutions or how we get out of this problem, unlike or thinking that like in a larger society and other places, they don't have similar or more difficult or crazier problems they have to solve or resolve. They don't come to us and say, we can't, we're fighting with each other. We can't resolve this problem. We're going to give it to somebody else. I mean, Congress go fight like cats and dogs. They ain't going to never agree for another country to come in and take over a Congress.
Well, Trump might agree to Russia doing some stuff. He seems to be agreeing to a lot of other countries, but that would be the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to be clear, man, and we're not clear. We have to begin to start focusing and reading again and looking for other. Let me just say, not just reading, but looking for other sources of information. And we take for granted. I know I take for granted that when we was coming up, we had all of these events that were going on. Right. People say now that the internet, you got all this information at your disposal, and sometimes because it's at your disposal, you don't use it.
Fair, and there's so much of it that really good information just gets lost. Right. Like we've got more access to more information than any other in all history of the world. Right. And that access also means that you have access to nothing if you don't know where to look for it.
It's right in your face.
Right.
But we had to actively look for it, and so people put on things. Right. We had these conferences. I mean, I must have went to 3 or 4 conferences a year. Right. The BMCC, the Malcolm X conference, all these conferences that went on. We actually looked forward to going to these conferences and went in groups, right? We saw the people we read about, the authors of these books. We got to ask them questions, talk to them. We debated each other there. And so these things helped shape our political, perspective. And that's just not present like that anymore.
And the debates that you're having in person are much more quality than people, texting something online and, Facebook, Twitter, getting in all these these silly arguments that aren't really about anything, as opposed to substantial conversations between people who are actually reading books.
Well, people was looking for resolution. When you on there, most of the time, folks ain't looking for resolution. They looking for to troll or like, so forth and so on, right? So it's my way to hit you without you seeing me. So I had to wait to go to the conference to see old boy to have a debate with him at the Malcolm X conference. Like, I don't agree with what you said, and it wasn't in a way that I didn't agree with you, that I thought you was my enemy.
Right.
I didn't agree with you because that's not what I believe, right? And we struggled around those specific things, but we understood. We were able to identify who allies were and who weren't allies.
And also to hone your own positions, right? Because I'm sure at those positions, you didn't come out the same way you went in.
Oh, absolutely not. You learned more information. Your perspective may have changed. You talked to somebody, you got a deeper understanding of things that people said that you didn't. You might have read something and you thought he meant something, and you got a chance to talk to him and say, "Oh wow, okay, I understand where you're coming from at this point," and it helps you grow, right? It helps you grow.
Yeah. See, I hear that, right, man, and I agree. But here's the thing, man. I mean, the problems I really got with a lot of them cats who don't have that kind of background, who haven't been to those kind of conferences, and know all of that, these are some of these newfound black cats. Now, all of a sudden, they blacker than we are, right?
Yeah.
They more conscious than we are, right? I'm having conversations with some of these folks, right? Like, everything that come out of their mouth. Yo, I'm black. Yo, it's all black. Yo, it's... Well, where were you at in 1995, bro? We was at the Million Man March. Oh, I wasn't really with that. I couldn't really get down with Farrakhan at the time. I'm like, but you all in now, right? So was that bad then? Nah, you know what I'm saying, man. Y'all, or you talk to some cats now, and it's like their whole business is black. I don't want to call no names, but you see these cats, man, and black to the black, black to the black, black this, and it's like,
in my old days, I would instigate.
And
like,
so
what are you talking about, man?
And so if I say to them, we got the greatest mayor in the history of Newark, Ras Baraka. Oh yeah, but you don't know, bro. I was in college with him, bro. I know what he was about when he was down there with the Newark boss. What does that mean to me? Right? What does that mean to me? I'm telling you who he is and what he's doing now. And I'm telling you, even then, y'all couldn't even hold the shoestring. Oh yeah, bro, but you understand. I was on the upper side of the yard with him. What does that mean? Were you part of the organization?
Probably not.
No, they weren't members of no organization. That's the conversation I'm having, right? So I'm in DC and I'm having this conversation. I'm saying, yo, bro, I'm saying you got it incorrect, man. I'm saying in my mind, I think Newark is the greatest city on the map right now. And why? I'm saying because of my brother. Yeah, but you don't know him like that. What do you mean I don't know him? Because I wasn't in college with him? Bruh, I'm in the same city with this brother. I know his father. I know him. You know what I mean? You down here in Baltimore, bro. But they blacker than black right now, man. But they haven't had the advantage of having these kind of dialogues with people you disagree with, and then coming to different events. Remember, man, we remember that big event we used to have at the Javits Center where all the black businesses would get together, and we would see Black Expo. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to cats who don't have that experience, right? But now they blacker than black, and somehow when we say that our mayor is this and because he's our brother and this is what, bruh.
But I would even go one step.
They don't even know a damn thing about self-determination.
But to me, it's not about personality of the mayor. It's not about
Absolutely.
the history. It really is about, there are a lot of progressive solutions in Newark that the rest of the country is going to follow in, right? Like whether we deal with like making all of the lead lines like a public thing. That's the first in the country to do that, right? To pay for all that. Making when you're talking about the Civilian Complaint Review Board, right? There are a lot of ways that we look at policing in Newark that are very different than in the rest of the country, right? Like so I think that people get so caught up in personality,
Right.
and they get so caught up in the person that they're like, no, like when we talk about self-determination really isn't about individuals as much as it is like what we will do as a people and how we move forward politically.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Even when you think about the Civilian Review Board, right?
Exactly right.
That's personal to you. Why is it personal to you? Your father was hit upside the goddamn head by some police, right?
And I marched as a kid.
You know what I'm saying? So
make it Civilian Review Board.
Right. So when we're talking about these things in Newark, bro, we having these conversations out of some osmos, some other side of the bridge. We involved in this.
So
that's why I was telling you, when these cats look at you and they think politics is a new hustle, and then when you give them your resume and say, bro, you know how many times I ran? Do you know what I've been through?
Since 1994.
Right. You know, shorty for mayor, do you think I just came on the roll and all of a sudden that's why I'm saying when all them new jacks was running, I'm like, yo, dude, go read the history, man.
And I was just reading Chris Randall's body language behind us and this conversation, and I'm predicting what he was probably going to say is, what? I'm from Baltimore. We don't even know where our mayor is. Our mayor's on the run. We had no idea. So your mayor at least comes to work every day. Am I doing that right, Chris? Am I saying, Chris Randall, am I saying that right? Am I doing that right?
What I would add to the conversation is that is true that every mayor I've had in my whole lifetime, most of them have been indicted for some kind of crime, and y'all
this is Chris Randall. He's
yeah.
third year student.
Yeah, I would say this. This is what I would say to you.
They come to indict us though.
Yeah, but the thing is, Charles Hamilton and Kwame Ture wrote a book called Black Power, right?
They sure did.
And in the rewriting of it, there's this thing in 1982 where Charles Hamilton exposes what he calls the race hustle.
That's right.
And the thing is that now it's all the rage to have diversity. You know what I mean? It's all the rage to have people of color. But most people of color don't know what politics is and how it works and what does it mean. So when they say they're activists, they mean, you know, I can criticize T.I. because he made a timing comment.
Right. That's it.
But they don't know what that means, what it means to be politically active, what it means to be engaged in that, right? And at the same time, they don't want the trauma of being a black leader. Right?
Trauma.
They don't want the blood of that. They just like the fact that I get to say that I get to be woke.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, there's that conversation again, man.
Yeah.
You sound like Obama.
Yeah, and the truth is that
woke but not informed.
Yeah, but you in the bed, but you woke, right? You under the covers, but you happen not to be in REM sleep. And the reality is that one of the greatest moments I ever had was I brought your father when your father was on campus. I was kind of his personal assistant for the day. It was great to be his lackey. It was awesome, right? And one thing he said was, academia is one of the last bastions of colonialism.
That's right.
And the truth is, you got people who are educated in terms of they can speak well, they're articulate, but they have no relationship to any real community. One of the things that I thought was the coolest thing you did was when you had the mayor's forum about the water, where you cross your legs, you were like, he from West Orange. He ain't even, like, they're not even from here. And the reality is most people who are critical of radical politics don't really know what radical means, have no idea what it means. I'm sure that there are plenty of people all over the country who will call and cuss you out because you've allowed the water to be replaced for free. And most people don't really know what progress is and what that means and how it works, and also ignorant of all the systems around them. To be honest, when Fanon says it's easier to criticize, the colonized find it easier to criticize each other, they know it's easier to criticize you, but they're not going to criticize nothing white around them.
Nothing.
The average person who's mad at Ras Baraka would never go to their boss and cuss him out. Right? Would never say anything bad about Viacom. And it's real. It's just that you haven't, because you have vulnerable skin. People feel comfortable saying things.
Well, you know,
that's 100% right there.
Well, we get beat up every time you come here, man.
Bunch of self-hatred, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you know, every time the man come here, the one thing they say is we his PR machine.
That's good.
You know,
we need some PR.
They say all politics are local with Mayor Baraka's PR machine.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need something to. I don't got to start.
At least somebody said something.
I don't got the Washington Post. I don't got the New York Times.
Yeah.
We should at least have the Amsterdam News. We don't have Gil Noble no more.
That's right.
Bob Law.
And this is the mayor's forum.
So, that's right.
I guess.
Right.
Listen, I don't really engage, get really all worked up about that stuff anymore. Even with the lead stuff, the free part, like the real part of it is like we doing back office paperwork for small African American, Black and brown businesses. We doing their paperwork. The city is doing their paperwork so they can get contracts, right? We starting a fund so they can pay their workers up front because they're not able to not pay people for a month or two like the primes are doing, right? We force these guys.
You're gonna have to explain that because
so we force them to hire subcontractors, right? And the subcontractors can't get the work because they don't own the machines. Not only do they own the machines, they can't pay the workers because this work you ain't gonna get paid for a month later, 2 months, so they can't front the payroll, and they can't go to the bank and get the loan so they can front the payroll so they can get what they need. So ultimately, the primes can say, "Well, we ain't paying these guys."
Primes, what do you mean?
The primary vendor. Yeah. We can't pay these. So if I get a thing like Montana, a multi-million-dollar firm, they can change all of their service lines. If I'm giving out $40 million, they're going to get that, right? They don't got to hire you. And so we force them to hire. So then they say, look, we can't hire these people because they don't have the certification. They have to have machines to do the work. And then the guys who get the job, they say, look, man, we can't take this job because we can't pay our people because we're not getting paid every 2 weeks.
And you're talking about the small business subcontractors.
So, yeah, I'm talking about us, our folks, right? The small business subcontractors. So let me explain it. Okay. So at the end of it, right? So what we have to do is do the paperwork for them, because the paperwork is thick. They make it thick and difficult on purpose. So what we do is you create a consortium of folks, of lawyers, of accountants, of people that do pro bono work in a circle that comes and say, we're going to do this work for you.
Wow.
Fill out the paperwork for you. That we organize in the city. We create a fund so you can front your folks and pay the money before you get a check from the city, so you compete and begin to show you how to get your payroll and your balance sheet together so you can go to the bank and get a loan. All those things we have to do, or else we miss out on 120 million, a part of 120 million dollars. And then because this is just a Newark issue, it's statewide. Like, you can do this now all over the state. There's people flying into Newark trying to get a part of a contract of $120 million on planes and staying in hotels. Meanwhile, you running around here talking about how horrible. I mean, I was going back and forth with a lady on the internet. Like, she wanted to know why she said I'm sugarcoating things. I said, I don't have the luxury of pessimism. I can't wallow in defeat and keep telling you how horrible things are. People know it's bad out here. They know it's horrible. What they need from you is an answer.
Right.
How we move forward. What's the solution?
Right.
What's the day-to-day motion on this thing? You want me to come to your rally and tell you that black people are getting shot? Hell, we know we're getting shot.
Yeah.
We at the damn funerals.
Right.
I'm at the funeral.
Yeah.
What are you at the table to help us move this thing forward? That's the key. So I'll take the brunt of the whole lead thing. Oh, you got thick shoulders. I'll take that. Right. Because in the problem is the solution. I'll take the bruises, but I'm gonna make some millionaires because of the lead problem. There's gonna be some people who come out of this as millionaires who are gonna have a different perspective of the entire problem, right? And they're not just gonna be listening to New York Times or NJTV. You know what I mean? They're getting their business together because you think old boy flew from Atlanta, rented a hotel for a weekend because he worried about whether Newarkers are getting clean water. Hell no.
Right.
He's doing it because there's $120 million on the street and he's going to get wealth to feed his family, right? Not money, wealth.
Right.
We confuse money with wealth, right? Money is how you get wealth, right? Money is a tool to get wealth, right? People think that, that's why we always chasing money and we're not chasing wealth. I'm getting money. Right. That doesn't mean anything, right? So them people fly here, they walk out of this town with $40 million contract, a piece of that. They good.
Right.
Yeah.
They good. Then they go buy property and do all kind of stuff. Yeah. You live here. Your only relationship to this issue is that you complained about it on Facebook. Right? There's a whole bunch of people in this town who have these businesses who should be helping these people get their businesses tight. Right? And
which is what you mean by self-determination.
Yeah, that's exactly what
like
self-determination
actual
is.
Self-determination is kind of like what happened in Atlanta, right? Like in Atlanta, when they built the airport, a lot of millionaires were made based on that. What you're saying is that with this crisis is opportunity. And in
it's always opportunity in every crisis.
I think that becomes, someone said that the Chinese word for crisis is opportunity. And don't misquote me on that, but or I'm probably misquoting someone on that. But yes, every crisis opportunity, and that's what's happening in terms of.
When there's blood in the street, is money to be made, bro.
Yeah.
And every crisis is an opportunity, right? Our whole life is a crisis. Our whole condition here is a crisis. There's nothing that has happened to us that has not happened to us before, right? All of these things are reoccurring things, and the really crazy thing is, when we take these officers and these elected officials, the problem is you presume that you can fix this simply because you have this position, right? That these are things like when I went to Prudential to speak, I said, listen, there are people who were before me that were more brilliant than I am, trying to figure out problems that they have not yet to figure out. Du Bois was the first empiricist the country's ever seen, studying the Philadelphia Negro, right? So at the end of the day, like he comes up, he's got all, we read this stuff, we trying to figure out how to solve these problems that have been going on for decades, right? And I think that by myself, with the knowledge that I have, devoid of them, is going to fix this problem. No, that's wrong. You got to attach what you know to all of the history of things that people know and begin to do your part. Like, I'm not delusional to believe because I spent 8 years in the mayor's office that black people are going to be free. You understand what I'm telling you? My job is to put my cog in the wheel.
And it needs to be better than when you got here.
Be better, not only better than when I left, but I have to direct the next person to, got to pass the baton. You just don't leave it on the damn ground. You know, you got to give it to the next person and then inform them, this is where we went, this is where we are. You got to take it to this place. This is what we got to do next. This is what we got to do now, right? And these people spend a lot of money and time trying to disrupt that line, to break it up, to separate us from one another, right? So there's no continuity in our
So there's
struggle.
generational conflict within each other.
And exactly, no continuity in our struggle. There's a lot of confusion, no real continuity, no understanding of what we're struggling against, right? We're not struggling against names or people calling you this and that.
Right.
That's nothing.
Right.
If it was out somebody calling you a name, we wouldn't have a problem, right? If we could just shoot a fair one in the street, we wouldn't be in this situation, right? If your best man and my best man got on the block and we shot the one and whoever won was the winner.
Right.
I mean, but our issues are deep seated. So we need engineers. We need engineers. I mean, in the sense that we need people to build. We can't just talk about the world we want to see. We actually build it. The problem is we're waiting for somebody else to build the world that we keep envisioning. And we're going to have to build it ourselves.
Right.
To me, that's what self-determination is.
Right.
You want a new world, you got to build it.
Right.
The problem is we don't have any engineers.
Right.
We have a whole bunch of people who tell you that they know what the problem is and don't really because they haven't studied it.
Right.
Or they look at it and say this, and like the brother said, which is Fanon, that we attacking each other and blaming each other, but there's no engineers. If I had a meeting and say we're going to talk about the problem, it'll be packed. Rim to rim.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll be in there debating till 1 o'clock in the morning. If I have the meeting the next day, that's about what we're going to do to fix the problem, that meeting gets smaller. God forbid we have to have the next meeting to talk about to pass out the assignments, then that room gets even smaller. Then now if I have to keep people accountable for the assignments that they have to do, the room gets even smaller than that, right? So we need folks that's going to be engineers. We don't really need any more of these people in front of folks doing all this stuff. All of us are fighting for something, these positions that they've given us.
As opposed to building something new that would make the community that much better, that much different, taking it to another level of actual self-determination. So we're not just hit by what other people do.
That's right.
We are building things to determine for ourselves.
And because we didn't
what our
read,
destiny will
we
be.
repeat the same things over and over again.
Yeah. But there it is.
There's no continuity in our struggle. So
Now, what do you mean by that in terms of repeat the same things over again?
we wound up doing what other people did before us, and some of it is nostalgic, right? So we got this kind of nostalgic view of what the Panthers did or what some other people did or these other. So we're trying to duplicate that, right? Because it's nostalgia. It's continuity of it is they've taken it this place, we have to take it the next place.
Right.
They've taken it that place, we have to take it the next place.
Right.
And the only way there's continuity is if the information is flowing, right? And if there's some understanding and clarity in this information as it's passed down from generation to generation. My father used to say in Africa they used to beat the drum and we used to communicate through the drum.
That's right.
He said now they beat the drum and down here we play the music back and say we don't understand what you're saying. Right. That's so the most common way is like we don't even understand each other's language.
Right.
So it's difficult for us to even communicate, right? In that way. But like in language in terms of our understanding of where each other coming from, or even who came before us, there's no understanding of that either.
It seems like I was in the Seton Hall Upper Bound growing up, and like big influences were Leroy Wilson and Erwin Ponder. They were in the Newark uprisings, and they always said that we paid for the things we're doing with bodies on the street.
Bodies.
Right, and they always said that we need to go beyond programs. The Seton Hall Upper Bound program. We need to go beyond programs and create institutions.
That's
And
right.
because we don't really have a lot of institutions that pass down generational knowledge within our community for the things that we're developing from generation to
That's
generation.
right. And think about it.
That's real.
But think about it, man. All of our generals are dying, though, man.
And
so we can't get
because
that.
that information is not carried on,
That's right.
that's what disrupts the continuity, right?
Because institutions don't have to worry about that, right? Like when institutions are built in many other communities, that means that generations of people within those communities will benefit in very similar ways, because it's not about the individuals, it's about the institution, what that institution stands for.
Right.
Like with the school movement, they've even taken away our institutions within our school. We're allowing our institutions within even our own schools that listed generation, right, to be gone with something new, like a passing fad.
That's real. I mean, we romanticize this thing, man. Like you saying, these guys, they super black, they do all this. It's romantic, right? At the end of the day, People who've been in war don't like fighting.
Right.
Because they know the ugliness of it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And they like my father and mother and the generation there, they were involved in struggle because they had to be.
Right.
They
That's
didn't do it
absolutely
because
right.
they were getting a time slot on the nightly news.
Right.
You dig?
They weren't
Yeah.
going to be on MSNBC.
Right. Or they
Right.
was going to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they didn't want to be on those things. They were trying to create their own forms of way to connect with the people in the community, right?
Right.
So, and that's not the same. I'm not trying to cast no aspersions on what people are doing, but I'm saying at the end of the day, they did this stuff because they had to, and the results of what they did were devastating.
Right.
That's why I don't like people when they start romanticizing the struggle. Like I
Right.
talk to adults, and it's funny. Like there's a lot of adults, people my age, older than me, who I hear them speak, and when it was going on, they wasn't even involved in it.
Right.
And I know they wasn't involved in it, but they're romanticizing it now. Those people sacrifice so much.
Right.
Their families, their health, their life,
That's right.
their careers.
That's right.
You know, they were whitelisted.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their jobs. They wouldn't even publish my father's books in this country at one point.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The money was taken out of their mouth. Houses was broken into. Files were kept on them. These people were attacked.
Mhm.
Some of them killed. Right. This was serious. This wasn't no thing. I get to say something on social media and now I'm an activist.
Right.
These people were activists. Their lives were in danger.
Right. Right.
And I seen that firsthand.
Right.
And I know the kids of those people because we were friends.
Right.
And I know some of them are traumatized for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Some of them have been driven so far away from social consciousness. Like you'll see somebody and they'll be like, that's such and such his son. And then everybody has this judgment about this person. Well, you should have known his father was this, his mother was that, and look at him. But they don't know what was going on in his household.
Right.
You know, they don't know what was happening, the degree of pressure and trauma that was going up in that coming in that household. We didn't celebrate birthdays or Christmas or any of those things. I didn't go to people's houses for birthday parties.
Right.
I didn't have Christmas gifts. I didn't have all this. First of all, we didn't believe all that stuff, right? That everybody else believed.
Right.
We was practicing the damn Nguzu Saba.
Right.
You know, I didn't have all that. I didn't have this birthday stuff. I come home, people broke into our house. My father had security in the basement.
Right.
I grew up in a household with people in the basement with security in our house.
Wow.
You dig what I'm saying? As a kid, I seen my father beat by the police, dragged out of his car. I testified at 10 years old on trial because they arrested my father in New York City, and I had to testify which way they had his hands cuffed, in the front or the back. And the prosecutor kept going over and over and over that to make me seem like I was lying, that I was not there, being traumatized while the police beat the hell out of my father.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right, and being
so that's why I don't like when
traumatized
people, why people romanticize all this stuff that was going on. This was ugly.
Right.
The fight for struggle and freedom was an ugly chapter in this country, right? And there's a whole bunch of children, right, who grew up. People always say, I wonder where those kids are. Yeah, some of them are hospitalized.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are, you meet them, they lost their mind, they doing all kind of things, because they grew up in a warlike condition.
Right.
Before we even knew what PTSD was.
Yeah,
and,
before
how real it was and trauma.
And nobody was coming to their house with contracts, telling them, oh, we like what you're saying, it's radical. Can you come on my talk show?
Right.
Can we get you to come around the country and do the speak? They want to give my father tenure. He wrote more books than them people read.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? He wrote more plays, more books, more essays.
Took away his poet lawyer.
This man was a brilliant writer.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, I mean, this is what we were attacked.
Right.
So that's why I get really, passionate about that. You know, I go at it with people even older than me who come up, you know, talk about this time period and all this stuff. I say, hey man, I was in a Hekalu, you know, or Urban Turner Boulevard when we had our own buildings, when we had the Uwashi, when we was learning how to do the Zulu dance and the boot dance, right? We was learning Swahili. I didn't learn Snow White and the Seven Dogs.
That's right.
I was raised on I was raised on something totally different.
Right.
Cold Fire in the Black Sea. I wasn't raised on that, man.
Right.
I wasn't raised on that.
Right.
I didn't get the same history that these kids got.
Yeah.
I didn't get, you know, all the ABCs and the Santa Claus stories. All my stuff was about black people.
Right.
You know, we was in the Hekalu. They were shooting in the building.
Right.
They shot in the building of the Hekalu.
Right.
Bullets in the building with women and children who were in there trying to raise their kids to teach them to be self-determining.
Right.
Opening their own schools before charter schools were even thought of.
Right. Right.
We was doing our own schools before charter school. We didn't no damn charter school. We didn't get no state money to open up no charter school. People had their own schools that they taught their own children. My mother was my teacher.
Right.
A is for Africa.
Wow.
That's what I learned, bro. A is for Africa.
Right.
Right. And went through the whole alphabets. Right. So it's a whole different kind of thing that, you know, I was able to be under. And then when I became an adult, so when I was a kid, I would dislike that stuff.
Right.
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 You know, that's why when I get with these people, I get with these people that are judging these children. I was angry at 14 years old.
Right.
Because I wanted to celebrate Christmas.
Right. Right.
Because I wanted birthday parties. Because I wanted to go to these things that everybody else was going to. I didn't get to have none. I thought I wanted Santa Claus to be white. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
How you the only one in school? You got where you get this black Santa? You crazy? Santa Claus ain't black.
Right.
As a matter of fact, not only ain't black, he ain't real.
Right.
You know, so I mean, we was celebrating, and then we was doing it in Nguzo Saba, the seven principles.
That's right.
We was celebrating Kwanzaa, dressed up in African garb. My brother name was Obalaji. I was Ras J Baraka. They say my name in school. The kids couldn't even pronounce my name. They made jokes about us.
Right. Right.
We wasn't wearing the designer clothes.
Right.
We dressed like Mao Zedong.
Right.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like, it's just real.
Right.
So that's why when I get in debates with people when they go down, it just goes over my head. Like, you know, it goes past me.
Right.
Because I know they don't understand what's happening here. Like, I know the enemy. I seen him up close.
Right. Right.
Right. I seen them up close and what they're capable of doing to our families.
Right. Right.
Without hesitation. Right. My father went to jail on Rikers Island on the weekends for resisting arrest for a charge for arresting him for something he wasn't even doing.
Right. Right.
They chased us up and down the Manhattan street. They put the car on the sidewalk and jumped out the car and chased me down the street and grabbed me out the store to throw me in a police car.
Right.
Wow.
You dig what I'm saying? This is us growing up. You know, my brother was born in 1967, brother, in the middle of the Newark Rebellion. My mother ran through the streets of Newark looking for her husband who was lost, who was arrested by the police that they could not find. Writers from around the world had to call Newark to put pressure on them so they could tell her that he was in a hospital chained to a one of those wheelchairs, right? Bleeding out of his head, busted a head by a guy who he went to school with at Barringer High School.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. All of this is before Raz gets to Howard University. This is the history.
And as
that everybody
been,
that some of these Negroes want to talk about. Oh, you didn't know this, brother, at Howard, but you didn't know this history. He just laid on you either, did you?
Most people don't.
Man, you got to write that down. I'm gonna just say this, and I know this might get me in trouble, but I think a lot of the buffoonery and the stupidity that you see from millennials and younger is because we aren't taught that either.
Right.
Everything you just said, I've been around you. I was there for the campaign. All of that. I have no idea about that. I knew your dad. He was like a pseudo mentor to me. I didn't know that. My mother was
taking it for granted.
Right. But that's why you get it at his show.
But that's my man's form. I got you. But my mother was in the Black Panther Party, right? And she told me those things. But most of the people who my age ain't never heard that a day in their life.
That's right.
So you know who they think is an activist?
Huh.
Right.
I don't even want to get through it.
Just imagine who you think that is. Right. So the reality is that they see berets and boots and they think that's what the Black Panther Party was.
No.
But they're not talking about getting chained or nothing.
Right.
And taking for real beatings.
That's right.
So when they think about what that is, they think hating is the farthest that it goes. So if people don't publish that stuff, and we're not taught those things, and we can't be held accountable to it.
Yeah. But
that's real. That's right. That's fair. It's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's political prisoners still in jail.
Right.
Yeah.
And
today, now. Yeah. And right. People don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
Who went through this period and they locked them up and they never. I mean, Matula Shakur, right? You talking about Sundiata Coley and here. You know, all of these people that that went through these things, that have real information, and know that, and they've met the enemy up close.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, really, they're not talking about it in a theoretical sense or making jokes about it or debating them on Channel 7, right? They met him for real. Like, they knocked on the man's door. They knocked on those people's door and said, nah, this is what you're not going to do, right? This is what you're not going to say. And you can't organize this. You can't build institutions, right? And even like when my dad began to change politically his ideology, and it became more leftist, more socialist, more communist. What the pieces of it that I think that we needed, that was lost in that these people attacked, was what you said earlier. Those institutions that we needed those buildings.
Right.
Oh,
We need the Heikalu today.
That's
Yes.
right. We do.
We need the Uwashi today. We need those buildings. We need that land. We need that information. We need our kids to walk down the street and see bold, bad black men on the street protecting their families. That's what we need. We need that in a collective way.
That's right.
We need that. We need that.
And we need a building that looks like the Spirit House, red, black, and green, bro.
We absolutely need it, man.
Imagine that, brother.
Even going through all of this in my mind, like, and the stuff that I believe and think that we should do in the city. I mean, just the raw social issues that we have.
Right.
Some of that stuff can be combated if we begin to empower ourselves and become more self-determined, right? We're waiting. Anything that happens in the community, I get 1,000 acts on Instagram.
Right.
Me. So some guy, a store, somebody gets beat up in front of a store. The store owner beat him up, not me, right?
Right.
Everybody asks me,
right?
Because they say you should do something. Well, I did. We arrested him, right? But in those days, nobody was acting Adonisio.
Fair.
Right.
They wasn't going. So the fact that you have the freedom to have a discussion with the mayor about doing something about your life, that you have a direct thing, that's a whole nother level of struggle. And then secondly, what the hell are you gonna do?
Right.
Are you gonna go back to that store again?
Right.
Did you organize a boycott?
That's right.
What are you a part of?
Right.
Are you doing something? What is your role in this?
Right.
Like, what is your role in this? Or are you waiting for me to do something so you can go back to sleep?
Right.
You waiting for me to say, oh, the store is horrible, we arrested the guy. So what?
Right.
So what about the next store that does that, right? Or the next person that, what are you going to do collectively about the situation? Or you're just waiting for me.
Right.
So what you're saying is that real self-determination is about community.
Absolutely.
It is about self,
Absolutely.
not just leader top down, but bottom up. What are you a part of? What are you doing? You might not think you can change the world, but you can affect something on your block. And self-determination, it was enough people within our community who do something about our block, the world's a different place.
And that's, we gave up some of our self-determination for our struggle for democracy.
Because we got involved in other struggles that were not about our block.
Wow.
And their issues that were not about what we're doing here.
Well, the fact that we were able to elect people, finally, in some places, gave us the complacency that those people were going to take care of everything. Not understanding that we're still in a system that's designed to create the outcomes that exist.
Right.
So you actually put somebody, so you got all these mayors that were elected in the 60s, and you trying to get them to reverse 400 years of something that already happened, right? Institutionalized, all of the issues that you want them to fight have existed 50, 60 years before they got there. You want King Gibson to come and turn the whole thing upside down. Something that when they left the city and bankrupted it, they purposefully fled the city.
Right.
They purposefully deteriorated the tax base, right? And then they funded the schools based on tax base that don't exist, right? And so the schools went down. They knew that the infant mortality rate was higher in Newark than any other place. So he comes in the office trying to fix the infant mortality rate. That's one of the things he's credited for, trying to do all the things around these health disparities in a city that was almost bankrupt. So they gave it to him, but they gave it to him with nothing. And we expected him to do so much with so little, and when he couldn't do it, we said, get rid of him, let's put somebody else. And for years, we've been fighting to get the different people, and they can't get what we want because we think the answer to our situation is simply in 920 Broad Street. Right? That's
top-down politics.
Right? That's just a part of it.
Right.
That's just a part of it, right? When you fight for a position, It is really like a chessboard or positioning on a battlefield, right? You want to have this position, you want this council position, you want this mayor position, you want this freeholder position as a part of a larger kind of struggle, right? That's attached to a larger mission that has an army of folks that are community based, that are institutional based in here, that have their own resources, their own money. Jesse used to say we get our votes from one side of the community and our money from another, right? Which makes us the dichotomous, right? So we got to answer the people who give us money and try to answer to the community at the same time. And that's a problem that we don't have to have, right? Maynard Jackson told us how to get rid of that problem. So we should not be talking about that. We should be figuring out how to create wealth in our own community so you don't have to do that. But then if you believe that somehow because you're the mayor that you don't need to hook up with all these other pieces on a chessboard that you win, that's a surefire plan to lose. Like you have to put all of these pieces together because all of it works together. The problem is we're all against each other.
Well, I don't even know why.
And don't even know why.
But see, this is,
and don't even know why.
But this is why the mayor's got. This is why, man, you got to teach, bro. Listen,
I'm about to be out here, but we took a bunch of kids to see Harriet Tubman, man, and I was glad that we did that. You know, and I wanted to say that I think people should see it. Not because I think it's the greatest historical movie in the world, but I think
they should see it.
But I think it is better than Black Panther. And let me say why I'm saying that, right? Because we need some superheroes. That's why people love Black Panther, right? We need superheroes, right? But Harriet Tubman was a real life superhero, right? Real life. So I don't mind that they took a little liberties here and there. You gave it this. I want our children to say, I want to be like Harriet Tubman. I would rather them say I want to be Harriet Tubman than I want them to be Black Panther. You know why? Because he ain't real. Right? He ain't real.
Really went back. Over and over again.
The whole mentality and all that stuff that happened. I told him that. I said, listen, I loved comic books when I was a kid. I stopped reading comic books when I realized that those people wasn't ever going to come. Right? That they wasn't going to show up. That they wasn't going to help me. Right? I had to help myself. But so if you want to believe in something like supernatural, incredible, beyond human strength, look at what this movie you can already see, Harriet Tubman. It's fantastical. But this is a real person fighting real problems in a real situation. If you want to emulate somebody, emulate that, right? And you know, if my son was old enough, I'd take him to see. Well, he went. We took him, but he didn't understand nothing was going on. But at the end of the day, I would advise all these educators and so forth and so on to do that. And then after you do that, get out the history book.
That's right. There's some really good books that have been written. Shout out to that also.
And tell them the real story of Harriet Tubman and what actually happened, and what her role was, even in the Civil War, and all those other things. I think that's important.
Yeah, because when we see the movie, you want to ask the question, what's real, what's not. And then people start, they start looking for the sources.
They start looking for the sources.
Well, there it is, y'all. That is the mayor's forum. If remember that song by Jay-Z, You're Gonna Learn Today? Well, listen, I want y'all to understand, y'all just learned something today about the mayor's history. So, Mayor, any final words, man?
No, sir, brother, PE, brother, keep that's my man. Elvis was a hero the most. He also said every brother ain't a brother.
Because the black hand squeezed on Malcolm X, the man, and the killing of Huey Newton from the hands of
Hoover, stinking sucker. King and X set up.
All right, y'all. There it is. That's the mayor's forum. That's our beloved brother, Mayor Ras J Baraka. Y'all listening to All Politics and Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Listen, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back, and then we're gonna come back in the building. Of course, we got the great street doctor in the building. We're gonna talk to him a little bit, and then we got a dynamite brother, Jordan Thomas, in the building.